There likely is no God. Here's why. First of all, atheistic naturalism explains everything that we observe in the world around us just fine without invoking God.
Well, that's an obviously false statement, but let's give you the benefit of the doubt and see where you're going with this.
We can explain the origin of life, we can explain the origin of the universe, we can explain the origin of the earth and everything we see around us without invoking God.
No. There is no scientific consensus on the explanation for the origin of the universe. And every attempted theory that leaves out an intelligent agent either fails as a matter of logical coherence or depends entirely on underlying assumptions that are oh so conveniently unobservable and untestable, which by definition would also make them unscientific. But go ahead. Give it a shot.
You can take an internalist approach with Einstein's block model, in which there's just 4 dimensions of space and time, and it's infinite.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Those 4 dimensions are what we traditionally think of as the 3 spatial dimensions: length, width, depth, along with the temporal dimension of time. Einstein's theory suggests a B theory of time, in which all points of time exist. The past doesn't disappear, and the future isn't yet to come. It's just our temporal perspective that only allows us to perceive the present. But past and future also exist in a static, 4-dimensional block universe, meaning time travel should theoretically be possible if only we had a flux capacitor and enough plutonium. Now, this is far from a consensus view among cosmologists, but leaving that aside, the problem is that time cannot be infinite. If we were to look into the past, we would see the singularity that marks the beginning of our universe. It's from that point that the universe starts expanding, eventually forming what we see today. Now, this is confirmed by evidence like the observed cosmic background radiation and the redshift of distant galaxies that was discovered by Edwin Hubble. But in a block universe, that singularity marks the beginning of all 4 dimensions, including time. So our own observational evidence shows that time cannot be infinite. Plus, there are all the logical problems with the existence of an actually infinite number of past events existing in the real universe. Contradictions like we see in thought experiments like Hilbert's Hotel. If we had a hotel with an infinite number of rooms, and it was filled to capacity, how many people are checked in? An infinite number. Now, what if half of them check out? Well, guess what? We have both an infinite number of people still in the hotel and an infinite number who have left. These types of ridiculous paradoxes show that while these types of theoretical infinities are useful in mathematics, it's nonsensical to speak of them existing in the actual 4-dimensional universe.
Or you can take a more quantum approach with the Everettian model of quantum mechanics, in which there's a universal wave function. Our universe is simply a vector in a larger Hilbert space, which is infinitely dimensional. The universe's operations are all guided by the way this wave function evolves with the Schrödinger equation.
So your first mistake is thinking of Hilbert space as an actual physical, albeit quantum, location where multiple universes can be born. And that's basically the idea. Within the Hilbert space, all the possible outcomes of a quantum measurement actually happen, with each one existing in a different, constantly branching universe. It's essentially a universe-making machine. Make enough universes, and you're bound to end up with one like this. Well, aside from the fact that this sounds like something out of the MCU, there are all sorts of teleological problems with this model, such as the simple fact that any such universe-making machine would have to be incredibly finely tuned, and therefore, statistically, it would require a designer for itself. But leaving that aside, again, there is no scientific consensus on this model, and for very good reason. It's unverifiable, which, ironically, according to most atheists who criticize me, would also make it unscientific. How would you ever observe what is happening in all these other universes to even know if they exist, let alone if they're behaving in the way this model predicts? You can't. Hilbert space is not a description of physical reality. It's an abstract mathematical model that is used to work out theoretical quantum problems. But the idea that it actually exists is nothing more than wishful thinking. It's an atheistic hope that can never be proven. You know, for a group that loves to criticize Christians for allegedly having blind faith, that one really takes the cake. The faith is strong in you.
So we actually have a mathematical mechanism for the origin of the universe.
Yeah, no you don't.
The theist doesn't. They just say God.
Last I checked, all those apologetics textbooks out there have a little bit more than just one word. God. Nice straw man fallacy, though. Theistic arguments use evidence, including the same cosmological data that you've ignored, and use it in both deductive and inductive arguments to demonstrate that the existence of a transcendent, intelligent agent is the best explanation for that evidence. But hey, as long as you don't want to believe, I guess you can just go ahead and oversimplify all that by claiming we say God.
My framework actually explains all the observable states that we see in space and time.
Except your framework does none of that. For one thing, in the beginning of your video, you claimed that you could explain the origin of life, or what's called abiogenesis, but you failed to even provide any potential explanation for that. Neither Einstein's theory nor Everett's have anything to do with the origin of life. That hurdle has been so insurmountable that even grand atheist Richard Dawkins at one point proposed that maybe the building blocks for life crash landed on Earth after hitching a ride on a space rock from a distant galaxy, which of course just changes the geography of the problem from explaining life here on Earth to explaining how it arose somewhere else. And let's be clear, the overwhelming scientific consensus about the origin of the universe is the Big Bang model. But even that really only explains how the universe developed after it had begun, not how it began in the first place. The same is true for Darwinian evolution. Even if we accept it as 100% true, it only even claims to explain how life developed after it began, not how it began in the first place. Atheists have an insurmountable origin problem, and all your video has shown is that you will rely on unobservable, unverifiable, blind faith to avoid admitting what the available data shows is the best explanation. But have a blessed day.